Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of Steaks with Mates. I'm your host, Health Coach Joff, and today I'm joined with a special guest. Her name is Jenny from Canada. So, welcome, Jenny. How are you?
I'm great, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm here with you today. How could I complain?
You've made my morning. So this is gonna lead on to having a great day. I'm pretty sure. So, um, Jenny, you are I met Jenny through our Carnivore community group that we have on Instagram, and I've been following her on social media. She's got great content. She promotes the carnivore diet, and we'd all love to hear your story. Uh, take us back to Jenny before carnivore and what's happened since.
Sure, yeah. So Jenny's health journey has been a long and arduous one. We'll say it started with gut health, probably around the age of 14, 15. I started having really bad stomach pains, the standard gut health thing. And we couldn't figure it out. I went through bariatric testing. I went through ultrasounds. I went through barium swallowing. Everything on the face of the planet that you can imagine happened to me. They could not identify it. A few years later, they said stress, and then, they put it on their way. So a few years later, I end up going through a number of health issues. I was also diagnosed with hypothyroidism, all the things. So you're told it's genetic. And so, I've got genetic stress. I've got genetic hypothyroidism. I've got genetic, right? So I get medicated from 16 for my hypothyroidism. As years progress, go through testing for this and that with my stomach. Nothing definitive has ever come to pass. And then I would say in 2011, I'm working in the restaurant industry and late nights, heavy drinking, tons of partying, tons of terrible food, the bad kind of fasting where you just don't eat because you're not eating, not because you're intentionally not eating. And my stress levels are pretty through the roof. And a good friend of mine was a personal trainer, and he said, "Hey, you're looking kind of stressed out. You should try the Whole30." And so I learned what the Whole30 is, and I give the Whole30 a try, and I complete the 30 days. And I'm like, hey, I feel pretty all right. Cool. Not eating chips and hot dogs every day and drinking my face off is doing pretty good for me. So did I stick with it? No, of course I didn't. I went right back to my industry life and off I went. And then we can say my health continued to decline from there. In 2016, I made the decision to leave the restaurant industry after 20 years of being behind the bar and or managing fairly large scale restaurants. And I went into municipal politics, which is definitely a less stressful job. And in my political role, obviously my cortisol is just through the roof. I'm managing a political office. I'm also managing a political campaign. So things were pretty bad. And as we all know, cortisol and its impact on the body is not a great thing, especially when you already deal with other health issues. So my gut health just got really bad. And I developed anxiety at this point in time. I had never struggled with that in my life, but all of a sudden I'm having panic attacks. I'm having really severe heart palpitations, can't figure it out. And then I just continue about my life. In 2018, I start doing hard 75s. And the hard 75 starts being transformational for me. The first time I did a Live Hard program and I did a paleo diet, which worked really well for me compared to my SAD diet, we'll say. So it transitions on and I kind of go on and off and in and out of stressful jobs. And I'm managing an animal hospital for a while in a emergency 24-hour facility with like 15 doctors under me and 47 support staff. And it's super high stress. And that good old cortisol just sneaks right back on in. And I developed significant bloating, inflammation. Like my face was probably twice the size of what it currently is. And I gained 45 pounds in 3 months. And nobody can figure it out. They're just saying it's your hypothyroidism. It's out of balance. Have a nice day. Okay, bye. So at this point in time, I'm so bloated, I can't put pants on anymore. Like I'm in dresses now, and people are consistently asking me how pregnant I am. And it's majorly just gut pain and inflammation, just like pain and inflammation. And so I go and I get another series of tests, and I'm diagnosed with diverticulitis and SIBO, which they presume I have had for a number of years. So then, of course, we go into the standard old, here's your antibiotics, have a nice day regiment. And so we go through 4 courses of antibiotics in a year. It does nothing. And then my really awesome doctor actually puts me in contact with a naturopath. And the naturopath puts me on the elemental diet, which is, you may know from being a nurse stuff, but it's essentially what they give you through a feeding tube. And you live off of this liquid that contains essential nutrients, which it does not, but it contains essential nutrients. And I was allowed to eat meat. That was the only thing I was allowed to have. And so I went 4 weeks on liquid and meat only. And it's the first time in my life I start to see relief from the symptoms. But do I piece it together that it's the meat? No, I don't. I say it's the elemental diet. It worked. It's the best. This is great. And then I stop the elemental diet and everything comes right back because I just go back to eating. The doctor says you're healed, and I go back to eating everything, and I'm not healed. So that brings us to the beginning of 2024, where I found Carnivore very inadvertently. Would you like me to go directly into my carnivore journey?
Yeah, let's get straight into it. I mean, like, what actually drew you to Carnivore? Because I mean, it's on social media, of course, but everyone sort of seems to have a different entry point. Some people say they watched it through Michaela Peterson, Sean Baker. Who was it that stuck out that was like, oh, what's this?
So funny. I'm a lot like Jonathan, Norse carnivore. I didn't know anything about the carnivore diet. I had been ketogenic. We should say I didn't go back to a SAD diet prior, like when I came off of that elemental diet. I had been keto for a while, but like dirty keto. And I didn't understand the dieting. I was just doing it. I wasn't really applying my knowledge. And I came into another 75 hard because that seems to be the way it goes with me. So I came into another 75 hard at the beginning of 2024, very inadvertently. So I was standing in my kitchen and I see my boyfriend standing looking at the fridge where we have a 75 hard outline. And I said, "Are you starting a 75 hard?" And he said, "Yeah, tomorrow." And I was like, "Oh, cool. I'll do one with you." So I said, "What diet are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, carnivore." And I said, "You're insane. Why would you eat only meat? What's wrong with you? That's nuts. I'm not doing that. There's no way." So I said, "I'll do ketovore at best. I'm not committing to this meat thing. What's wrong with you?" And so then like the next morning comes and I cook for us and I make him carnivore meal because he's carnivore. You got to stick to your diet, right? And so I find a few days in of this, I'm just eating carnivore because I'm not making 2 separate meals for people. That's ridiculous. I just am eating carnivore inadvertently. And literally within a week, I'm going, hang on a second. Like, I'm not so bloated. This pain isn't feeling so bad. My anxiety is not so crazy. My, like, everything is not so crazy. Like, hey, okay, there might be something to this meat thing. We'll stick it out. So I stick it out through 75 days. And during that time, he'd been researching it for 6 months. I didn't know anything about this. During that time, he introduces me to all your regular folks, Dr. Ken Berry, Anthony Shafee, Sean Baker, Steak and Butter Gal. And I start to learn. And then I go, oh, okay, there might be something to this thing. And now here we are, a year and a half later. I've never looked back.
Year and a half later, you not look back. So what has happened within that year?
So that year has been truly transformational for me. I have completely, like, my anxiety is gone. It's no more. My ability to handle stress is phenomenal. I still work high stress. I work for myself and I work in marketing and a lot on social media. I work in super high stress positions, but It just doesn't impact me. I don't feel that panic anymore. The heart palpitations are gone. That heaviness in the chest is completely gone. I don't lay awake at night worrying about things. I feel very stable. Certainly my skin is like light years ahead of where it was. My hair, so I used to be balding from my hypothyroidism. I had
Wow.
probably an inch and a half wide part where I was actually buying
Yeah.
treatments online and putting treatments physically on my head and taking supplements, trying to regrow my hair that was falling out. And within that year, my hair grew back. I had very dry skin from my hypothyroidism, so my dry skin just went away. My skin is like dewy and great. I'm 41. I feel like my wrinkles are pretty minimal. I'm doing okay over here with the carnivore. The gut health has been like hands down the most incredible thing for me, and I'm a very big advocate now in the space for it. I don't live with any pain. I was 10 out of 10 pain facing a potential surgery and colostomy bag going into carnivore with my diverticulitis. It was so severe.
Yeah.
And I don't live with diverticulitis pain at all anymore. I can happily wear pants again. I don't have to live in dresses. I can put a pair of pants on if I want. So that's been really cool. I think the things, it's like you hear from every carnivore, you discover new things every day, right? I feel I'm a fairly ADHD person. And before I was very much like squirrel. But now I function in this very like high functioning state where I can handle a multitude of things at one point in time very cohesively and with like a lot of attention. And I'm not pro multitasking, but I can do a lot of things simultaneously in a really regulated way without getting distracted by things. It's been really cool. It's you never really realize what you're living with until you're not living with it anymore.
Exactly. Well, first off, that is an amazing story. I think, just from my background and knowing what these things are, like these are no simple, ailments that just,
Yeah.
oh, you've got,
Mm,
I mean, diverticulitis is insane. I mean,
bad.
from what I see in others, I mean, I don't have personal experience, but what I see from people I've looked after, it's not fun at all. Not fun.
No,
Not fun.
no. Yeah, I had an interesting part of diverticulitis where the sigmoid region of my intestine
Yeah.
was hardened. And so
Yeah.
they had told me I would live with this scar. Scar tissue, and I would live with that. It
Yeah.
was about 4 inches long and about 2 inches around. And I was getting osteopathy on it and everything. Nobody could get rid of it. And they just said, sorry, it's a scar from the infection. Your infection is so severe. It's called scar tissue. You're going to live with this forever. And it is gone. I do not have that at all anymore. It's gone.
Wow. Which is so interesting because you bring up the antibiotics, having it every couple of, is it a couple of months that you would have to have
It was
it?
every couple of months, and I would be on a
Yeah.
3 week stint. Yeah.
Yeah. But what I've noticed, and I guess this is just my observation, is that a lot of people that are on these chronic antibiotics just tend to wipe out their gut flora, their microbiome. This is another topic for probably another day
Mm.
because it can get really deep, or we can. I don't mind talking about this, but not a lot of people know about the gut microbiome, and I hear, these complaints from the people that I've looked after that are on these antibiotics long term. I'm sorry if this is a bit TMI, but it shows up in your everyday life, diarrhea,
Oh my
just
God. Yeah.
generally feeling unwell. Um,
Hmm.
it doesn't make sense to me that that is the treatment. But who am I to say? I'm not a doctor. But going straight for let's just kill everything in the gut that's supposedly doing so much damage. But coming to carnivore, you realize that the gut microbiome is so important, so important.
Oh. Well, and you see
Yeah.
the link with mental health, right? So, like for
Yes.
me, my education is in psychology.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm pretty in depth in the mental health end of things as well. I do life coaching and whatnot. But
Mm.
yeah, you start to really realize when your gut microbiome is messed up, your mental health is messed up. Like those two things
Yes.
are directly correlated with each other. So it's, you don't realize this anxiety and this depression and all these feelings that you're having that don't feel like you as a person are because
Mm.
of the dysregulation in your gut. It's wiped clean.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. So, um, within that week, things changed. Within that one
Things
week,
change within 1 week. Yeah.
it changed immediately. That was the same for me as well. That one week was enough
Hmm.
to be like, oh my gosh, something's
Hmm.
happening. Um, can you sort of explain to people what's so special about carnivore? Why, in your own, I guess, understanding, in your own thoughts, why did things change so drastically, and why is it continuing to improve your health?
Well, I mean, with carnivore diet, and I work a lot with women. And so I think I'm a bit of a rare case that I had that quick of a reaction, but I was in a really bad way. So I think
Mm.
that's why. To be forthcoming, I would say it was about 6 to 9 months before I really started to decrease the inflammation significantly enough that I was really seeing the benefits of it. It's definitely something I talk a lot about in my content is that, like with men, we often see that 1 week to 3 to 4 week window where men adapt very quickly. Women tend to take 90 plus days, dependent on what's going on. So I believe, obviously, that carnivore works because I've done the research. I'm studying right now to be a carnivore coach. So, I'm pretty in depth into the science of it. I won't go super sciencey here, but when you're fat adapted, which obviously takes a little period of time, and it's okay. And I just want to stress to everybody, it's okay if you have a rough start. We all have a rough start. That's fine. I had the diarrhea. I had the brain fog, the pains, the headaches. I had all of that too. You just need to get through it. You need to figure out about your own fat to protein ratio. You got to hydrate. You got to get your electrolytes right. But carnivore is the ancestrally correct diet. And I recognize everybody wants to fight against that because there's so much indoctrination and nobody wants to say no to their alcohol and their chips and their pasta and everything else. But when you return to a diet that is nutrient dense, it contains all of the essential vitamins and nutrients that you need. You stop craving food. You stop with this insulin spike crash cycle that you're on. You stop with the overinflammation. And when you start to remove these things from your body, and there is no way when you get into the science of it to argue the fact that being on a low carb diet removes inflammation. It balances blood sugar. Another thing I had that I didn't mention was hypoglycemia. And it was actually so significant. I had an incident where I crashed my car. I had a full blown hypoglycemic pass out and drove my car into a sign and ripped my car
Wow.
to shreds. And when they came to talk to me, they thought that I was intoxicated because I was in such a severe sugar crash. I was slurring. So for anybody to argue that carnivore isn't beneficial for somebody with insulin issues is completely incorrect. My sugar is so regulated now. My satiety is incredibly regulated. Having previously been hypothyroid, you eat all day long because you're told, oh, you're hypothyroid. You need 6 to 10 meals a day to regulate
Mm.
yourself. You don't. 2 or 1 meal a day is completely fine when you're eating correctly. So I think carnivore will always continue to be beneficial the time that you're on it. I say it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. It's something I encourage people to try for 30 days because I know that they will see the incredible benefits. But for me, then it's like, stick with this. Like, don't go back to something that's going to make you sick. And I think, you only continue to heal. There's years of damage done to our bodies from alcohol consumption, from the sad diet, from stress, from living incorrectly in front of screens without our blockers on, from putting sunglasses on when we go outside, from not going outside. It's going to take years to deconstruct this impact that's been on our health. And so for me, I feel the longer I'm on carnivore, and I want to be like one of these, like I've been carnivore for 86 years, people, right? I won't live that long because I'm not Dave Asprey and I'm not going to live to be 140, but maybe I will. Who knows?
Who
I
knows?
think, who knows? Maybe with my carnivore diet. I
Maybe.
think it's kind of one of these things where it's like, it's so amazing to see the benefits. And of course, sometimes you hit hiccups. There might be weight stagnation or things like that. But to me, that's a really incredible opportunity to look at your body and say, what's going on? How come I've had this stagnation, or how come I'm feeling frustrated, or what is going on with me right now? Because it's so simplistic. It's such an amazing opportunity to check in, to continue to improve your health. And when you add all these crazy things, it gets loud and it becomes really hard to regulate what is it that's making me feel this way. But for me right now, for example, I got a small eczema outbreak 3-4 days ago. So I cut out dairy.
Yes.
I know it's dairy. I know that it's dairy. I don't want to give up dairy. It's cheese day today. I don't want to give up dairy, but I give up dairy. Because I live on such a simplistic diet. I will not say restrictive. It's not restrictive. On a simplistic diet, I'm able to very easily go, something's wrong. How do I fix it? And it's that simple. That's why carnivore works to me.
Love it. I really admire that you've brought in quite very valid points. The first one being the ancestral point of view. I think that's what people need to, you're right. The indoctrination runs so deep that we overlook what we've actually have done as a species, as human beings, because we are so conditioned to trust in what the experts have said. And we don't judge because they're keeping us alive. We've got, the wonderful interventions that have saved humanity, all these drugs, these surgical treatments. But guys, look at the past and tell me that we don't, that things are not completely different. It's completely changed. And the fact that now social media has shown the world that there are people that are reversing things like hypothyroidism, things like diverticulitis, it's going to be very hard to ignore. And we are going to receive a lot of pushback, but you cannot ignore it. You cannot ignore what's going on. Another thing you brought up was, carnivore isn't restrictive. It's simplistic. I like that a lot because it's a very value judgment statement to say, "Oh, I feel restrictive in my eating habits." But if you look at everything in a whole sense, you're giving yourself more freedom than you actually cannot even fathom because you've never ever experienced it. Like, I was just thinking about this the other day. A lot of people don't know what it's like to eat intuitively. They don't know. They don't know what it's like.
Yeah. Everybody in my life.
Yeah. And so
Everybody in my life.
when carnivores talk about food freedom and they feel like, they're not attached to food, that's hard for someone to comprehend. And until you've gone through it yourself, it's it's just an amazing feeling. So what does now that we're talking about the people around us, how do people around you feel about you going on this lifestyle, not diet, lifestyle?
I'm a bull in a china shop of a human being, and so since I was a child, I have been full of wild chaos. My nickname when I was a kid was Fireball. I am, like, as you can see, a fairly heavily tattooed girl. So was anybody surprised? No, they're used to me at this point in time, and I think everybody in my life really understands that I'm a person of boundaries, and so. I love you. If you want to be part of my life, you have to respect my decisions. And if you don't respect my decisions, you don't get to be part of my life. And that goes for family, that goes for friends. Fortunately for me, my partner is also a carnivore, so it makes our home life really easy.
Very
But
fortunate.
my mom even did, I don't know if you were following me at the time, but in January, my 75-year-old mother, who went from eating pasta 3 times a week, did a full month of carnivore. And so my mom has osteopenia and fairly significant osteoarthritis and was living with such significant pain in her feet that she was falling. And I conned her into it. I'm telling you, this woman, she was like, I'm not doing it. And I pushed her, pushed her, and pushed her. And she said, okay, 30 days. And she did it. She committed incredibly well. She fat adapted in like 4 days flat. I've never seen anybody adapt to carnivore the way my mother adapted to it. And she went from a 10 out of 10 pain to like a 1 out of 10 pain. And seeing somebody at 75 being able to accomplish what she accomplished was like outstanding. So do my friends think I'm nuts? Yeah. But like, I gave up drinking forever ago and they thought I was nuts for that. And I quit working for the man. I went out to work for myself and they think I'm nuts for that. So like at this point in time, if you're in my life, you're used to me. So I think everybody was like, the one thing I will say that I find slightly irritating is that people speak about it like I had to be carnivore, like, or else. Like Jenny has to be carnivore because she was so sick. And I
Mm.
don't feel like, despite probably some significant illnesses I actually was living with, I didn't feel sicker than anybody else. I was just aware of my illnesses. I was paying attention to my body and saying, I don't want to live like this. But when I listened to my friends, I was on another podcast with Mark last week from our group, and we were talking about me being in a wedding coming up. And I'm listening to some folks who are 10 plus years younger than me having reservations about like movement and like basic life things. And I look at people and I think, you know what? I'm not carnivore because I'm sick. I came to carnivore to get well. I stay with carnivore because I'm healed. And if other people want to follow me in that, I love to lead by example. They're welcome to, but they are not welcome to judge me in any capacity. I would say the hardest was my mother and father-in-law are Hispanic, and so they love to lead with food. But they have done a beautiful job of accommodating me. I think it breaks their heart that I won't eat treats every time I'm with them. But they've been very kind and very accommodating. So for me, it hasn't been terrible. But also, I'm probably the most dominant person out of everyone I know. So I don't know. I don't know if anybody would try to bully me into anything. So here we are.
No, no, and I think that's a great mentality to have because of how, like I said, how deep the indoctrination goes. People are so set in their ways. So I think we do need to have a bit of tiger in us, in order to continue feeling the way that we feel by eating this way. Otherwise, it is going to be tough. And I know for a lot of people who are watching, if you don't have that, I guess that backing to say, I'm doing this for me and be like Jenny and just be dominant in a way that, it's very challenging. But I think it does need to start with a bit of a kick in yourself to
It
say,
does.
no.
It does.
Mm, mm, mm.
You have to choose you.
You
You
do.
have to choose
Yeah.
you, right? At some point in your life, you have to choose you. Like you can't pour from an empty cup. You got to put the airplane mask on yourself first before you put it on somebody else. Like we're taught all of this subliminally in society. Take care of
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And so it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be, I mean, I recognize it's a battle and people are going to think you're nuts and everything else. And how people approach that is up to the individual. But I would definitely recommend to everybody, like, before it's too late, it's the old addendum of like, if you don't make time for your wellness, you'll have to make time for your illness.
Yeah.
Choose you. Choose you.
Well, that's it. And I think we're only on this earth for a very short amount of time. If you put everything into perspective, like we've got,
Mm-hmm.
a limited amount of time, and we don't know when things are gonna, when it's gonna be the end. So
Mm-hmm.
what really bugs me is people always, talk the talk. Health is wealth. That's always the mentality of people. But I never really see people do the walking. They never really actually, health
Watch
is wealth,
this.
but I don't want to pay
Look
for
at
it.
this.
Yeah.
Lots of talking.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, it's great to see, people like yourself just being self advocates because that's where it starts. Um, what does your diet look like right now, if you don't mind me dissecting?
Look, I'm a strict carnivore. I do eat. I'm like one of those weirdos that eats things outside of red meat. Not
Yeah.
frequently, but I like to cook.
Yeah.
And like I said, carnivore doesn't have to be restrictive as long as your body allows for it. As I mentioned, my partner's Hispanic, so he comes from Peru. It's an ocean environment. I can't take that man's fish and seafood from him. He wouldn't be very happy. So we do eat fish. We eat seafood, not frequently, maybe once a week. It is a primarily red meat diet for sure. Lots of eggs, lots of butter, usually some dairy, not for the next month, but usually a little bit of dairy sneaks its way in there. And other than that, really, it's just water. I am a coffee drinker. So I'm a bad carnivore. I drink coffee, but other than that, yeah, my diet's pretty strict. I don't eat pork only just because of the histamine value of it. Um, and also I just love pigs. Uh, so other than that, yeah, I'm a pretty like red meat focused. I'd say red meat's like 80% of the diet, but I do eat chicken, I eat turkey, I eat fish and seafood as well.
Yeah, well, I think that sounds like most carnivores online. I think coffee is one of these things that you know, yeah, it's got an addictive component to it, and I think for the lifestyles, I don't know about yourself, but for me, I'm a busy person, and I kind of need that
Yeah,
the kick
yeah.
sometimes. Um,
Sometimes
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
I don't drink
yeah, I
like
think
like a pot every day. Like I don't drink like 10 cups of coffee a day or anything like that. Like one
yeah,
cup maybe max.
yeah, 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 exactly. And I think each to their own. I think it's really cool to talk about each other's sort of diets as well, because some people might pick up on things and be like, oh yeah, maybe I do need to think about my histamine issues. For myself,
Hmm.
I don't know if I posted it in the group or I don't remember, but I've been having severe histamine issues. This is the first time in the last 4 years of doing carnivore that I've just had a flare up of hives. And usually my histamine issues are, the runny nose, hay fever, sneezing every time. But this time I knew it was histamine issues because I've had hives in the past and it's not fun. And over the last month or so, I've had episodes nearly every week. Like I think I'm even flaring up now. So I'm going to try no dairy, which is very strange because I don't really have a lot of dairy. I might have it like once a week. Hmm.
What's your egg
So
intake look like?
not much at all. I don't like eggs as
Mm.
much. Um,
It's usually
I
eggs or
think
dairy, I find.
yeah, yeah. Look, it might be. So I might have to do the whole lion thing. I tell you what's helped though. The cold exposure has helped a lot.
Hmm. Yeah, the
Yeah.
cold exposure will do that. I have cold urticaria now, so
Oh
I
yeah.
will. I'll push through a cool shower. I like a cool shower, but if it's
Yeah.
cold, I'm head to toe hives,
Yeah.
and my
Yeah.
skin feels
Yeah.
like fire ants. It's great,
Y-
super.
You know what? That's probably something. Okay, now I'll have to do some looking into this because that might be it too. Because I have been doing the cold exposures for a few weeks now, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
See if
Um,
there's a correlation.
maybe. It's hard to tell. Like, it's not extremely bothering. Well, that's a lie. It's bothering the shit out of me, really. but
Of course, it is.
but yeah, yeah, but like compared to all of the issues I've had in the past, this is nothing. But
Yeah,
hey,
that's fair.
it's a learning curve, and I always tell people that the carnivore diet is a huge fix for a lot of things, but it's also the gate to open up about the other aspects in life to see
Hmm.
what else have we really been taught wrong, and you know are there anything else that we can improve, because now that I've been sort of 4 years into this, man, I just look around us and I just think our environments are so toxic.
Yeah.
Like there's so many
Yeah.
toxins, and I
Oh
don't think
yeah.
carnivore. I think carnivore will do justice in helping you heal, but with the everyday things like the blue light, the
Hmm.
the fact that we're not grounded, that we are so isolated from the earth, and just just a lot of things. We live in a toxic world. Yeah, yeah,
I work in marketing. Tell me about it. I know all about. I see marketing and everything right all the time because that's what I do.
yeah,
But yeah, I
yeah,
think I came into carnivore with a pretty heavy Dave Asprey mind. Like I'm a Dave Asprey fan.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
already had the blue light blockers and the red light glasses and everything else. But I'm really fortunate. I was raised by a gypsy mom. And so I was like a barefoot outdoor kid. I wasn't in front of a
Yeah.
TV. I don't have a TV in my bedroom. I never have. I disconnect from cell phone time always, every
Nice.
day. Like I force those things. But you're definitely right. Coming into carnivore, all of a sudden you're like, oh, but what about this? What about that? And then, yeah, it is a beautiful slippery slope to awareness.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, talking about influencers that have affected our lives, I asked this with all my guests. Who are your top three that have sort of guided you in your health journey?
It's you come in with your regulars, like I said in the beginning. But I would say I've stayed really consistent with Dr. Shafee and Dr. Barry. They've been really influential for me. And then I would say I'm 50-50 on like, I'm going to make it four. Dave Asprey
Go
is a
on.
big,
No
is a
one ever
big one.
sticks. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not sticking to your rules, Joff. I said I was wild. I warned you. I'm not a rule follower.
yeah,
Yeah, Dave Asprey's definitely been really impactful. Not so much for my carnivore journey, but to get me here for sure.
yeah.
It was definitely like part of that. And then I think Courtney Luna actually has been a really cool influence for me. I speak with her a lot. She's a super awesome person, and what I respect is like her honesty and authenticity, and how willing she is to always confront the way she's feeling on carnivore.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like nuances, like if she's like, I'm going to eat some cottage cheese, get past it. Like, I respect that.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, the doctors have gotten me there because I came into it with some more specific health concerns maybe than some people. But yeah, I love Courtney, and she's been impactful for me. And I think I got to put another woman up on the pedestal there if I'm going to say
yeah.
people who have impacted my journey for sure.
Absolutely. Shout out to all four of them because they all do amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jenny, where can people find you in social media?
Oh, I'm everywhere, but most most frequently on Instagram, it's at Lady of the Steak. So, and that's steak like food you eat, not steak in the ground, obviously.
Yeah,
Lady
yeah.
of the Steak on Instagram is the place to be. You can check out all my content there. And also, Jeff, you exist in a community with me, so you can check me out there every single day.
Lovely. So Instagram, have you got any other platforms that you want to promote?
I do, but I love my Instagram the most, so let's just stick with that. Instagram is my
Stick with
place
the
to be. I'm
IG.
there every single day, so stick with the IG.
Lovely, lovely. And any final messages to people out there who are struggling with any sort of health issue and have watched this video? Is there some words of advice you can give to them or anything?
Yeah, I think I'll circle back around to what I said before. It's like give yourself a chance, give your health a chance. And it's not a quick fix. It's not a 30-day, fix your whole life. Anybody who's trying to sell you an instant solution is lying to you. Health is not an instant solution, it's a commitment. But if you are feeling any type of way with brain fog or stress, anxiety, headaches, like anything, any of the things I've mentioned, or you might feel in your own body, give yourself a chance to live a life free from that pain. And that's obviously, from my perspective, comes from carnivore, but I would say, give yourself a chance to see what 10 out of 10 actually feels like for your health every day.
Lovely. Love the
That's it.
message.
That's it. I'll
Um,
cut it off there.
well, Jenny, thank you so much for your time. Everyone follow Lady of the Steak on Instagram. And for those who are, looking for, any help with their carnivore journey, reach out to Jenny if you resonate with her. Follow her on Instagram. I've already said that. But otherwise, thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting this podcast. And until then, we'll see you in the next episode.